When this news about Epic's new senior music director dropped last week, unfortunately I wasn't able to jump on making a video about it right away because if you guys don't know, if you guys happen to be following the channel, I had to take some time off last week because, long story short, extremely busy, okay? So I want to actually sit down and talk about this, and unfortunately, not everybody's talking about this anymore, but I still wanted to give my 2 cents. I still wanted to look at what some people had to say. Man, we're going to be talking about the controversy behind Epic Games having a new senior music designer. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. So, like clockwork, man, just like the drama within most communities, we get outraged about something for about a day, we forget about it, and we look for that next good old hit of dopamine because nobody cares about this already. Nobody cares about this already, but hey, like I said, we're going to make a video on it, okay? So, Alucard ended up posting this, and I believe this was the first piece of news where it ended up coming from, okay? Ariel Mann is Fortnite's new music designer since March 2025. Before joining Epic, he worked at Disney as a senior composer. You could hear his work in the most recent Super Showdown story event. Now, I wish that I could tell you off the top of my head how good the Super Showdown music event was because I listened to it one time and that was unfortunately in a reaction video because I wasn't able to get online for the event. So I need to sit back and see his work and see if it's actually up to par with the live events because, whew, for anybody taking on a senior role for music designer, man, they have some competition, okay? They have some competition to work with. But hey, Epic Games has done a great job with music so far, but the problem with this is a lot of people, and I'm not familiar with this person, okay? Ariel Mann, I don't know anything about him. I only know the stuff that people have been bringing up online, okay? Now let me bring you to just one example post. This is the only thing that, and he might have said some other stuff, okay? This is the only thing that I personally could find. And people are freaking out about this, okay? That second wave of Epic layoffs couldn't come any sooner, Kaizo had to say, and this is a tweet, I guess, from October 12th in 2023 by Ariel Mann. And here it is. I'm not going to read it for you. I can only imagine how that's going to get clipped out of context one day, so we are not going to be repeating anything on here. But you can understand by looking at this why people have been freaking out about this, why people are upset about this. So I wanted to get into what some of the Fortnite community had to say, and honestly, usually what I do is I like to get an authentic reaction to everything, so most of the replies that I read in my videos, guys, I think it's more fun that way if I just read it for the first time. For this one, I had to personally scan through all of the replies to me, all of the replies to the announcement, everybody talking about this, and we can't get too deep into it today because all of the replies are like, what are we doing, Epic? Epic Games signed a, I don't want to use the words and I don't want to get my video flagged, you know what I mean? Like, the phobe words, you know what I mean? I'm still a little bit iffy and I'm not sure what words are allowed on YouTube, so you can kind of understand what what opinions I'm talking about. Nobody really actually broke anything down about this. It was all like, Epic Games hired a scumbag, and that's putting it lightly, okay? Now, to be honest with you, and it's very important to note, guys, it's very, very important to note because I know that people were talking about the war. I know people are talking about this post, the type of person that Ariel Mann is. I like to keep, when it comes to things like political views, I keep it very, very private to myself, and I want to look at this as objectively as I possibly can. So I just ask, because I know people have a bad habit of doing this, I just ask that you take my personal opinion out of this because I'm not giving it to you. No matter what comes out of my mouth, please don't make any assumptions and start posting about it online. This is something that has been damaging to my reputation so far within this Fortnite community because they, like, I'm all of a sudden the guy who hates artists, and I don't want things like that going around, man. I don't like that. It's not who I am, and I already know that these types of things are touchy, so I'm telling you right now, you are not getting my personal opinion when it comes to the war. You are not getting my personal opinion when it comes to who Epic Games should hire. I'm looking at this as logically as I possibly can. There is no reason for you to take anything that I say out of context. Anyway, something that I did want to touch on with this conversation is, like, and before I say this, it's very important to note too, like, there is a ton of Epic Games developers, a ton of people working at Epic that are in support of various people's rights, and they probably hate somebody like Ariel Mann. That probably exists, but Epic Games as a whole, and the people of the higher ups and the people actually making the decisions, I think it's important to recognize and maybe finally recognize that they don't actually care about any of these issues that people keep posting. They clearly don't care about the outrage that everybody has been talking about with Ariel Mann being hired, because if there's one tweet right here that's still public, and I'm assuming that this is real, by the way, that things like this could always be photoshopped. If there's stuff like this online that's that public and Epic Games hasn't done anything about it, I highly doubt they are going to be doing something about it, and I highly doubt they even care. And like I said, it's great if you support whatever issues that you want to support. It's great that there are some Epic Games employees out there that are outspoken about their views and what they support, and they're whatever, like good people that have to work at Epic Games. I know they all exist. I'm talking about just the businesses in general. They could care less about these types of things. It's like just all of a sudden in June when all of the businesses are in support of everything under the sun. You know what I mean? It's just, I struggle to see how people don't really see through just businesses trying to satisfy people. Like, guys, there's a reason why all of the Rainbow Royale cosmetics are free. It's just to appease people. It's just to satisfy people. And when stuff like this happens, I don't believe they care. What Epic Games wants to do is they want somebody who's good at making music. And I would imagine that, especially if something like this is available online, I would imagine that Aerial Man is actually good at his job. That's all that matters to Epic Games. That's all that matters to a bunch of businesses. And again, I know there's people out there that work for Epic Games that are probably outspoken about this type of thing. They just hire who they want to hire. They'll do it anyways. And I would imagine, especially because, and I don't know to what extent, like, obviously Tim Sweeney has a giant say in things, but I vaguely remember something, and I remember making a video on it too, where Tim Sweeney said that some of his Epic Games developers could be outspoken about whatever they want. I could be remembering that wrong, but it was something along those lines. And back in the day, I respected Tim for saying that. And I think that's an excellent mindset to have, to be honest with you. You do not shut down your employees' speech, because that happens. And I'm a guy from Canada, guys. In Canada, you guys have no idea how bad that type of thing is over here. So I was outspoken. I remember, like, I wish I could remember exactly what the issue was. But I was like, dude, that's great. The employees can say exactly what they want. The problem with this is that this is a little bit of a step up in what we have been talking about these types of things. But then again, it's such a tough conversation to have, and I don't know what's right, because obviously if you look at this tweet, you understand what he's saying, right? You understand what he's saying. It's a little bit of a step up from just dropping your own political opinion. But then I think about the other side of the coin and the radical other side to this. Like, you know how there's two radical sides to, you know, both sides. And it's totally okay when somebody on the other side goes off the rails, but all of a sudden this is a big problem. But I understand the backlash to some tweet like this. You know what I mean? It's a very, very difficult conversation to have, because once you start shutting down speech, it becomes a very, very slippery slope. And I know that back in the day when Tim Sweeney defended that his one employee, and I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but it was on the other side of the coin saying, hey, you can say whatever you want, just do your job. Again, I'm paraphrasing, something along those lines. Then it was like the coolest thing under the sun. It's just surprising to me that with stuff like this online, Epic Games like willingly took somebody on like that. But again, I just think it goes to show that they actually don't care about the issues. They don't care. They want somebody who's good at making music, and Aerial Man is good at making music. Supposedly, I would imagine he's okay at making music. Now, there is one thing that I believe is safe to give my opinion on for you guys, and it's this. I don't know anything about Aerial Man, but I don't like people who just hate people for the way they are, for the way they're built, for like stuff, you know, just appearances and just the way they are. You know what I mean? I don't like people like that. And I am so extreme with my beliefs on people like that I can't say it on YouTube. Okay? I do not like and I do not respect any people who just hate people for the way they are. I look at people as individuals, and you can kind of understand what I'm getting to with something like this, because obviously this tweet has been saying something, and I feel like that's a safe opinion to give, to be honest with you. So don't take me out of context. I just was analyzing the situation as much as I possibly could, but let's hear what everybody else had to say. I also ended up posting this on X. I'm unfortunately off YouTube for a few days, but I'll make a video on this soon. A lot of people are upset with the person that Epic just hired. If you have any thoughts, drop them below, and I will include some in a video. Thank you for your time. If you would like to join this conversation, follow me over on X at Clen YouTube. You can follow me, or you can check out the link tree at the top of the description, or the direct link to X in the description down below. Like and subscribe if you have not already, guys. Let's hear what some people had to say. And it's not going to be too long today, because again, it's difficult to find opinions that aren't just screw Epic Games. I'm going to assume when Phil Boucher said someone else composed the music for the final showdown event, he's referring to him. Honestly, the audio from the event was great, and I hope he could work with Phil Boucher to compose an absolute masterpiece. A little bit off topic from what we were talking about, but I guess I didn't specify, right? I was talking about the idea of people being upset about this person. I didn't know that somebody else composed the music for the Final Showdown, and that was excellent music. And yeah, that would definitely get you in the door if you were working with Epic Games already. That'd be really cool. Eldorin Games had this to say. I've read some of the terrible things this guy has written, but we have no say in who Epic Games hires. The important thing here is that a lot of our composers, like the legendary Phil Boucher, are commissioned for their work and that probably won't change, hopefully. Yeah, at the end of the day, no matter what big fuss everybody wants to make online, nobody has any say in who Epic Games hires. That's exactly it. And I'm sorry, that's not wrong to say. You can have your opinions, you can hate whoever you want, but at the end of the day, it's Epic Games, whoever wants to hire them. And something else that I believe that people should start doing is voting with your wallet, like I keep saying. You know, people are upset about these bundles. Okay, stop buying skins. A lot of people are upset with Epic Games, what Epic Games is doing, the metaverse ruining Fortnite, whatever problems you may have with Fortnite, yet you still log on every day and you still play. What does that tell Epic Games? Then it's actually not that big of a deal, and you are just going to be a mindless consumer anyways. I'm a big supporter of, if you do not like what Fortnite is doing, stop playing Fortnite. I know it's a little bit off topic to what Eldorin had to say, but I do hope the best for Phil Boucher, honestly. I couldn't find, like, you know, terrible things, like, plural. That's the only thing that I could find. If anybody could shed some light down below, I would appreciate it, because I would like to see more of what he had to say, okay? The Notorious Dog had this to say. Oh no, someone can't find success because they have their own opinion, which is different from mine. Do those people realize how stupid that sounds? This dude has the right to have his own thoughts and opinions. They hired him for a reason, not for his ideology, but for his work. This part is especially true. Especially true. And he must do some pretty good work for them to bring him on after what he's posting online, because I'm sure that there's background checks on that. The problem is, like, that specific tweet, like I said earlier, it's a little bit of a step up from just, you know, not having you know, thinking a different way. You know what I mean? All right, let's continue on to what Spongy Boy had to say. I just think that politics should not relate to you getting a job, but the fact that the entire Twitter account is just propaganda makes me a bit iffy. I don't know. I guess I don't really have anything to say about the Twitter account being propaganda. I looked at it last week when everybody was, like, yapping about this. I just don't recall what exactly he's been posting. I was looking for some, like, problematic things. But regardless, in general, I don't think that politics should relate to you getting a job. But I understand the backlash, okay? Yes, fuck Epic for hiring someone with different beliefs than me. See, this is the problem. This is the problem. And I wish I would have had some context on that initial tweet. Maybe he was responding to somebody. I don't know. You know, when he was talking about, you know, buying plane tickets and that. It's such a difficult conversation to have, man. And I read a lot of people talking about Israel and Palestine, and it's very, very, very evident. And you know what's sad is what's about to come from my mouth, both sides of the aisle are going to agree with that. Like, hell yeah. It's very evident that when people are speaking on this, they have no idea what they're talking about. And I'm somebody who's educated on this entire situation. I'm somebody who's been following the war very closely. I don't mean to gas myself up, but if you know what's going on, if you've really, really, really looked into it, you can easily figure out what people are idiots and just yapping about what they saw. And again, do not take what I just said and drive my opinion to one particular belief. I just see a lot of people talking unnecessarily and a lot of people not knowing what they're talking about, right? That's the tough part about this, and that's most of the conversation that's been revolving around this guy. But then again, it's just the Fortnite community being themselves, of course. But that's just the nature of the internet, right? But if you want to talk about something that I could be a little bit more open about, why don't you check out this video on screen where we dive into some more community drama right here. I would love to have you over there. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Take care, everybody.